good. Yeah. Here are my friends.
I don't know who's on the outside
That's
there.
fair.
That's right. Shabbat shalom, everybody. Shalom. Okay, I'm Elliot Paul. I know all of you. You all know me. No, those people may know me. Some of the board rep. I get to do the announcements. At 7:30 tonight after services, there will be a postcard writing for every voice, every vote. Is that right?
Yeah.
Very good. Okay.
Correct.
Torah study tomorrow morning. Shabbat services in the morning. There's an intro to Judaism class coming up on the 18th. There's Makerspace on the 21st. There's an afternoon at the pub on the 21st as well. And if you haven't signed up for Seder, you better do it by Tuesday because it's going to sell out. Okay? And if you're new here, which none of you are, but if someone walks in and new, they can come talk to basically any of us, and we will welcome them. Thank you.
Thank you. Shabbat shalom.
Shabbat shalom.
I know. Exactly. I'm sure all of you have already signed up for the Seder, so. Okay, let's turn to page 8. Start with a little opening reflection. I begin with a prayer of gratitude for all that is holy in my life. God needs no words, no English or Hebrew, no semantics and no services, but I need them. Through prayer, I can sense my inner strength, my inner purpose, my inner joy, my capacity to love. As I reach upward in prayer, I sense these qualities in my Creator. To love God is to love each other, to work to make our lives better. To love God is to love the world God created and to work to perfect it. To love God is to love dreams of peace and joy that illumine all of us and to bring that vision to life. Amen. Thank you. Yeah. All right. Our candle blessing is on page 2. If you are on the live stream and you're celebrating something, please feel free to share in the chat. Anyone have a simcha? Look at all these hands. Start in the back. Amy. Yay! So glad that he's doing better. Wonderful. Brian. Ooh. Happy birthday. Ed, Judy. Yay, Mazel Tov. Amazing. Oh, okay, Mazel Tov. Jacob and Holly. Wonderful. I talked to Cantor David after that, so I heard it was beautiful. And Sue got a new house. You just closed on it? On Wednesday. Mazel Tov. Anyone else? Elliot? Yay. Sally gets to see Hannah. You haven't met her yet, right? Nope. Just Sally has. Okay. Mazel tov. Exciting. Anyone else over here? All right. Well, a lot of things to celebrate as we move into Shabbat. We'll join together in Kiddush, which is on page 5, if you'd like to join me. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam borei peri hagafen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kitshanu b'mitzvotav v'ratzavanu v'shabbat kodsho Be'ahava uvratzon hinchilanu, zikaron lemase bereshit, kihu yom tehila lebigrae kodesh, zecher letziyat mitzrayim, kivanu v'charta, v'tanu kidashta, mikol hamim, v'shabbat kodecha, ve'ahava uvratzon, hinchaltanu, Baruch atah Adonai, mekadesh haShabbat. Full service, huh? All right. We'll turn now to pages 20 and 21 for L'Chadodi as we welcome in our Shabbat bride, that spirit of Shabbat. You all know the drill. We'll join together verses 1, 2, 5, 9. Stand for verse 9. Ya la 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 L'Chadodi, L'Chad L'Kakala, L'Nei Panei Shabbat L'Kakala, L'Chadodi, L'Chad L'Kakala, L'Nei Panei Shabbat L'Kakala, L'Chadodi, L'Chad L'Kakala, L'Nei Panei Shabbat L'Kakala, L'Chadodi, L'Chad L'Kakala, L'Nei Panei Shabbat L'Kakala. Shama v'zachor v'liborecha, Shmiyanu ha'meyuchad Adonai echad u'shemoecha, Hashem ha'tiferet v'lichila L'Chadodi, L'Chad L'Kakala, L'Nei Panei Shabbat L'Kakala, L'Chadodi, L'Chad L'Kakala, L'Nei Panei Shabbat Shalom atevala, gam besimcha u'b'tohala, tochem eneyam segula, bo'ikala, bo'ikala, la 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 L'Chadodi, L'Chad L'Kakala, L'Nei Panei Shabbat L'Kakala, L'Chadodi, L'Chad L'Kakala, L'Nei Panei Shabbat L'Kakala. I'll be seated now, and we will keep that spirit going on page 24 with Shalom Aleichem. Shalom Aleichem, Malachei Sharei, Malachei Al-Yamim, Malachei Hamachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Shalom Aleichem, Malachei Sharei, Malachei Al-Yamim, Malachei Hamachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Shalom Aleichem, Malachei Hashavet, Malachei Al-Yamim, turn now to page 28 as we move into the Ma'ariv section of our service, starting with Baruch Hu, our call to worship. So if you're able, please rise. We will join together. I'll be seated. And we'll turn now to the next page, page 30 for Ma'ariv Arvim. Let's read together in the English. Blessed are you, Adonai, our God, ruler of the universe, who speaks the evening into being, skillfully opens the gates, thoughtfully alters the time and changes the seasons, and arranges the stars in their heavenly courses according to plan. You are creator of day and night, rolling light away from darkness and darkness from light, transforming day into night and distinguishing one from the other. Adonai Tzvaot is your name. Ever-living God, may you reign continually over us into eternity. Blessed are you, Adonai, who brings on evening. Baruch atah Adonai ha'ma'ariv aravim. We'll turn to the next page, page 32 for Ahavat Olam. Ahavat Olam, Beit Yisrael, Amcha Avta, Torah u'mitzvot, Hukim u'mishpatim, Otanu limadeta, Otanu limadeta. Al Kain Adonai Eloheinu b'shofenu, Kumeinu nasiach b'kakecha, V'nismach b'divrei Toratecha, V'mitzvotecha le'olam. Ki hem hayenu, Ve'orech yameinu, Uvachem nege yomam v'layla, nege yomam v'layla. Ve'ahavatcha tasir mimenu le'olamim. Baruch atah Adonai, ohev amo Yisrael. Ohev amo Yisrael. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad, Baruch Shem Kevurota, Le'olam La'olam. Page 36. Ve'ahavta et Adonai Elohecha b'chol levavcha u'v'chol nafshecha u'v'chol me'odecha והיו הדברים האלה אשר אנוכי מצווך יום על לבביך ושיננתם לבניך ודיברת בם בביתך ובלכתך בדרך ובשוכבך ובקומך וקשרתם להיות על ידיך והיו לטוטפות בין עיניך וכתבתם על מזוזות ביתך ובשעריך למען תזכרו ועשיתם את כל מצוותיי והייתם קדושים לאלוהיכם אני אדוני אלוהיכם אשר הוצאתי אתכם מארץ מצרים אלוהים אלוהים אני אדוני אלוהיכם אדוני אלוהיכם emet. On page 38, Emet V'Emunah, all this we hold to be true and trustworthy for us, that you alone are our God, and we are Israel, your people. You are sovereign and Savior, who delivers us from oppressors' hands and saves us from tyrants' fists. You work wonders without number, marvels beyond count. You give us life and steady our footsteps. You perform miracles for us before Pharaoh, signs and wonders in the land of the Egyptians. You led your people Israel out from their midst to freedom for all time. When your children witnessed your dominance, they praised your name in gratitude, and they accepted your sovereignty. Moses, Miriam, and all Israel sang to you together, lifting their voices joyously. And we sung Nechamocha, which is on page 40. Let's join together. Turn now to our prayer Hashkivenu. Let's read on the top of page 43. Let's read together. Oftentimes we sing this version of interpretation of Hashkivenu, which is a beautiful melody by Noah Aronson, but it doesn't capture the whole poem. So we'd love for us to read this together. Please join me. Let there be love and understanding among us. Let peace and friendship be our shelter from life's storms. Adonai, help us to walk with good companions, to live with hope in our hearts and eternity in our thoughts, that we may lie down in peace and rise up, waiting to do your will. Baruch atah Adonai, haporei sukat shalom, aleinu ve'al kol amo Yisrael ve'al Yerushalayim. Our prayer for the Shamru is on page 44. Top of page 44, reminding us the importance of keeping Shabbat and taking that day to refresh ourselves. Let's join together. Veshamru v'nei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat v'asot et ha-Shabbat l'dorotam berit olam beini uvein b'nei Yisrael oti ששת ימים עשה אדוני את השמיים ואת הארץ, וביום השביעי שבת, שבת וינפש, שבת וינפש, שבת, שבת וינפש. Now we are ready for our Amidah, our standing prayer. Rise if you are able, and join together beginning on page 46. Adonai safataticha ukiagiteviratecha. Adonai, open up my lips, that my mouth may declare your praise. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu, Elohei Avotenu v'Imateinu, Elohei Abraham, Elohei Yitzhak, Elohei Yaakov, Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Rachel, Elohei Leah, El Hagadol, Hagibor v'Hanokra, Elohim, Gomel Chasadim Tovim, Likonei Hakol, Zocher Hastei Avot v'Imahot, Mevi'u lifnei Leichem, Leman Shemo be'ahava, Melech Ozer Moshiach Achim, Baruch atah Adonai, Ani Avraham v'Zat Sarah, Atah Gibor le'olam Adonai, Mechayei hakol atah Rav le'Hoshia, Mashiv ha'ruach u'morid ha'gashem, Mechakel chayim b'chesed, Mechayei hakol berachamim rabim, Domech noflim v'rofeh olim, U'matir asurim, U'mekayem emunato, Lishanei afar, Michamocha b'gevurot, U'midam elah, Melech me'mit u'mechayeh, U'matzmiach Yeshua, B'nei atah le'hachayot, Baruch atah Adonai, Atah kadosh v'shimcha kadosh, u'kadoshim b'chol yom yihallelu chasala. Baruch atah Adonai, Elohim hakadosh. You may be seated. Before we move into silent prayer, I'm going to do a few of these prayers together. So on the top of page 55, if you would please join me. May these hours of rest and renewal open our hearts to joy and our minds to truth. May all who struggle find rest on this day. May all who suffer find solace. May all who hurt find healing on this day. May all who despair find purpose. May all who hunger find fulfillment on this day. And may this day fulfill its promise. Baruch atah Adonai, Mekadesh HaShabbat. And on page 58, we have Modim. Modim Anachnu Lach, our prayer of gratitude, which the last line of that, the kind of broken into two sections, but the last line of the first section ends with the words, Me'olam kivinu lach, we forever put our hope in you. So giving us the opportunity to give thanks for the things in our lives that are good that perhaps we had nothing to do with, that we have no control over. Sometimes things we have control over are not so great, but sometimes they turn out to be beautiful gifts. Blessed are you, Adonai. Your name is goodness. You are worthy of thanksgiving. Baruch atah Adonai, hatov shimcha ulecha na'eh lechojot. We'll take some time now for our silent prayer, and we'll come back together on page 62. Middle of page 62, may the words of our mouths and the meditations of our hearts be acceptable to you, Adonai, our rock and our Redeemer. Let's turn now to the middle of page 253, moving to our Mishaberach, prayer for healing. As we do every Shabbat when we are together, we take a moment to think about our loved ones who are in need of healing of body, healing of spirit. And on this Shabbat, we as a congregation are thinking about Azrael Early, Rohan Early, Amy Thornton, Stacy Hetzel, Jacqueline Tara Smith, Deborah Rose, Eileen Kreisman, Ronnie Haber, Vadim Barzam, Ellen Gottlieb, Vanessa Bianco, Paul McCready, Janelle Cohen, Glenn Letts, Jesse Early, Andrea Gorovich, Carl Wilhite, Ginny Gaston, Cindy Balin, Patty Newby, Barbara Laird, Marion Laird, Michelle Arrigo, Joni Michaels, Joe Giordano, Brian Ward, Joshua Kornblue, Samuel Navarro Ibarra, Bob Howell, Joe Dover, Janice Kaplan Klein, Stan Habib, Christina Marie Lindsay, Janine Morris, Margaret Nichols, M. Bucktenica, Ron Louie, and Sandra Lindstrom. There are other loved ones, friends that you want to mention tonight. If you're on the live stream, please share in the chat. If you're in the room, please share nice and loud. We can all hear. Let's turn together in the middle of page 253. Mi sheberach avotenu mekor habracha limotenu. May the source of strength to bless the ones before us help us find the courage to make our lives a blessing. Let us say Amen. Yisheberach imotenu mekor habracha le'avotenu. Bless those in need of healing with the fruit slema, the renewal of body, the renewal of spirit. Let us say Amen. Someone who we just recently got to take off the Mishaberach list said to me the other day, we should have another second list where we read all the names of people who have come off the Mishaberach list so we can celebrate that. Like, yes, that would be like, have a lot of long lists. That's a good thing, but yeah. All right. Around the beginning of the last century, there was a great rabbi who arrived in Jerusalem from Lithuania. His name was Aryeh Levin, and he was known in Israel as the Tzaddik, the righteous one of Jerusalem. Rabbi Levin passed away in 1969, and this is a story about him. As a young man, he moved to Jerusalem around the year 1905. And like many rabbis, Rabbi Aryeh Levin spent his days studying and teaching Torah. He visited people in the hospital. He sat with people who were bereaved, all those things. And then in 1931, Rabbi Levin was appointed by the chief rabbi to be the official Jewish prison chaplain in Jerusalem. And so on Shabbat, he would often walk to the British prison and spend time visiting the Jewish prisoners there. He became known as the father of the prisoners. Now, Rabbi Aryeh Levin was the rabbi of one of the neighborhoods in Jerusalem that's called Mishkanot, and it's near Machne Yehuda. If you've ever visited Jerusalem, that's that big outdoor market in Jerusalem. And he was a humble and modest man. He was loved by everyone there, religious, not religious. People felt a great affection for him because he was a mensch. He was kind and selfless, and just extended himself to everybody around him. And there's one thing that people said in particular about him, which is that he loved his Shabbos. He loved Shabbat. He always wanted to create a beautiful, peaceful atmosphere for Shabbat, for himself and for the members of his neighborhood community. And so one of the things he tried to do when he was there is he tried to persuade all of the Jewish store owners in that neighborhood of Mishkanot to close their shops for Shabbat. And so that way he explained to them that even the roads would be quiet, no one would be driving through, we wouldn't have the hustle bustle, and we would be able to have a calm, contemplative atmosphere of Shabbat. And so people loved him. He was able to persuade everybody to close their store on Shabbat, except for one person. There was one man, one store owner, who refused to close his store. He was not observant. He's like, I don't celebrate Shabbat. I don't see why we need to do this. So he refused to close his store on Shabbat. And so Rabbi Levin would come week after week to this man, trying to persuade him to close the store. And the man would always say, I'm not observant. I do good business on Shabbat. I'm not going to close the store. One Friday evening, as Shabbat was beginning, Rabbi Levin did everything that he always did for Shabbat. He dressed up in his nice Shabbat clothes. He got ready to go to shul for Friday night. And as the sun began to set, he left his home and he began to walk, but he didn't take a left the way he normally did towards the shul. Instead, he went to the right in the opposite direction, and people were like, where is he going? He's walking the wrong way. He must be lost. They were very confused. And so they all watched him as he walked away, wondering what he was doing. And he walked right to that store of that store owner. And when Rabbi Levin entered the store, he said Shabbat Shalom to the store owner and said, would you mind, could I just have a seat in your store to sit and rest for a little while? And the store owner felt honored that the rabbi was there, also very confused. But he brought over a little stool for the rabbi to sit on, and the rabbi sat just on that stool in the corner of the store as Shabbat was coming in. And as services were happening in his synagogue, just a few blocks away, but he stayed in the store the whole time, just sat there on that stool in the corner. And he watched people coming and going, and people came to buy food and newspapers and cigarettes. And after about an hour and a half, the rabbi got up. He thanked the shopkeeper for giving him a place to rest. He wished him Shabbat Shalom, and then he left the store. So the owner could not understand what happened. It's like the rabbi didn't go to services. He missed services on Friday night. He just sat there. He didn't do anything. He's like, I don't understand. Okay. So it kept bothering him. So on Sunday morning after Shabbat, he went to the rabbi's house. He knocks on the rabbi's door, and the rabbi invited him into his home. And the shopkeeper says, okay, I need you to explain what happened last Friday. I just don't understand. And this is what Rabbi Levin told him. He said, you know that I have asked you to close your store on Shabbat many times. We've spoken about this. But I wanted to understand for myself. I wanted to see for myself what it would be like for you to close your store. I wanted to see with my own eyes and to feel with my own heart what it was that I was asking you to give up. And now I realize how difficult it would be for you. I see how much business you do on Friday night, and I know how much you would be giving up by closing your store. And now that I truly understand, I cannot ask you, I will not ask you to close your store on Shabbat anymore. So the man thanked him and left. And then, as it turned out, the next Friday night and all of the following Friday nights, that man closed his store in Mishkanot, and all of the stores were closed for Shabbat in Jerusalem. So we all know the teaching that we're not supposed to judge someone until we've walked a mile in their footsteps, right? In their shoes. And Rabbi Levin, this rabbi who lived in Jerusalem in the early 20th century, he really lived this. He was known for this. And he was an Orthodox rabbi. And so, Sally can tell you all sorts of stories from her neighborhood where she came from. I think Orthodox communities oftentimes get a bad rep for being more about the letter of the law than the spirit of the law, but it's people like this who, someone who was Orthodox but really cared about individual people and wanted to understand, and it wasn't just about, the rules about the mitzvot. So he really lived this. I heard an interesting interview recently with Alanis Morissette, of all people, and it was very random. But she was talking about how in America, how we often focus on academic intellectualism, and we focus on action. We all want to take action, fix things, but we don't always focus on feelings and understanding other people. And how she talked about how words like feelings and being scared or sad or angry, that these, are not respected words in many circles in our society. But understanding the emotions and experiences of others, as she says, these things, they move worlds, is what she said. So I was thinking about, I've been continuing to think about how to just sort of sharing small pieces of my Israel trip with you all. I've shared a few different stories over the past few Shabbatot, and I want to share a story about someone who's alive today. Rabbi Levin passed away many, many years ago, and I want to tell you about another person, someone that I met when I was in Israel, and his name is Mohammed Daroshay, and Mohammed is the director of Planning, Equality, and Shared Society at Givat Haviva Educational Center, and he also serves as a faculty member at the Shalom Hartman Institute in Jerusalem, and he has dedicated his entire life to the world of education, and specifically the belief that learning about other people's experience is how we can change the world. And he started many schools, one of which is called Hand in Hand, is a school in the West Bank that I spent some time in visiting when I was in Israel for my first year of rabbinical school, so 15 years ago or whatever, and met with him then, so met him and learned with him a few times, and he has moved away from building and working on just that one school. That was kind of his first passion project, because he was getting impatient about wanting to do some bigger change. So now he's doing a lot more, which I can share a little bit about. But first I want to share two stories that he shared with us. So Mohammed is an Arab Israeli. He's Muslim. And and one of the things that he talked about was his experience of the war, being both an Israeli and a Muslim person, and also having someone who has Palestinian family in Gaza and And so one of the stories he told us was about his cousin, Awad, who was a paramedic. He was a young guy in his 20s, and he was killed at the Nova Festival. And Awad, his cousin, was there working as a paramedic, and he was in a group with mostly all other Israelis, mostly Jewish. And so when Hamas started attacking at the Nova Festival, he said to the people, his little team of paramedics, like, you all go get yourself to safety. I'm Muslim, I speak Arabic, I'll be fine. And then his teammates talked about how just within a matter of minutes, they could see that Hamas murdered him as well. They didn't care that he spoke Arabic. They didn't care that he was one of their Palestinian brothers in that sense. And so for Muhammad, he talked about, this sort of clarifying moment for him, he's worked his whole life to bring people together, but just this clarifying moment of feeling so frustrated that that there are people who just don't want to learn and from others and be in that kind of relationship. But he also told us a story about his daughter. So one of his daughters is a scientist who works in a lab in Beersheba. And one of the things that he told us about was how when she first started at this lab, is a few years ago, that the first time Passover came around, she didn't know. So they brought her lunch like she did every day, and they got to lunchtime, and she opens up her lunch, and she has a sandwich, and everyone in the lab freaked out, and they were angry at her. How dare you? It's Pesach, don't you know? It's Hametz, blah, blah, blah. And she called her dad, felt so bad. She's like, I didn't know. Like, I don't know. Like, they're all so mad at me. And so he talked with her about that and how, okay, well, now this is something you know and you can learn. And her experience of learning about Passover and what that means. And then that same year, not too much later, it was Ramadan. And and she got to the lab and she's fasting. And he explained that the way the lab works is there are strict rules about who can be where at certain times. And so when it was time for lunch and they go to the place where they have their lunch and people pull out their food and start eating, and she can't go into the other spaces because you're not allowed to be by yourself in the other spaces. And it's Beersheba. If you've ever been to Beersheba, it's hot. It's like so hot outside. And she's like, I have nowhere to go. And so she again calls her dad, and she's all upset. She's like, I don't fit in. I have nowhere to go. Da da da. And her dad encouraged her to share with the lab what's happening and what Ramadan is and why, And so she did that. She took that, let's say, leap of faith. Like, it's hard. It's when you are the only person, right? And everyone else shares something in common, and you're the different one. She shared that with them, and so now they've learned from each other. And we talked about how every year now, during Passover, during Ramadan, during the different holidays, how they've been able to learn from each other and make sure that they're honoring each other's traditions, and how beautiful that is. And one of the things that Muhammad shares that he does in his work, and he was like an endless spout of statistics, and I don't have all the statistics for you, but one of the things he does is he puts Israeli teachers in Palestinian schools, Palestinian teachers in Israeli schools, and he does these swaps with the teachers And they have all sorts of research that they've done about people's attitudes toward each other, and seeing how that shifts over time, and just how having one teacher, one person that is the quote-unquote other, really is giving these kids a shift in perspective. One of the other things he shared is that what they've also found is that when the kids go home and say things like, I met this Jewish person, I met this Muslim person, that oftentimes the parents will say, yeah, I'm sure that person's nice, but that's one person. Most of the Jews are bad. Most Muslims are bad, And so they've also done a lot of research about the consistency of how giving the experience to the kids over and over again, and how slowly they're able to, like, their opinions are sticking with them, right? Like, essentially they're able to think for themselves, and they're starting to see some longer lasting effects, which is something that gives me a lot of hope. So it's stories like these. Muhammad spoke for, I think, almost 2 hours straight. He just had so many different amazing stories, and these particular examples that gave me a sense of hope. That was also on our last day there in Israel. It was one of the last things that we did, and so to walk away with that sense of hope was powerful for me. And the only way I think that we can hear other people's stories, like Muhammad sets up, and like Rabbi Levin in that story, is by being willing to get out of our comfort zone and showing up to hear what others have to teach us. And like that shopkeeper, that one shopkeeper in Jerusalem, I think that sometimes also when we're given the space to tell our own story, that helps us to be then open to new possibilities. And so as we prepare this year for Pesach, just in about a week, I want to encourage us all this year, not just to tell our own story about ourselves to ourselves, which is what we do year after year, which is important, but maybe this year to make space somewhere in your Passover experience to hear the story of someone else and to be open to how that might move us for the better. Shabbat shalom. All right. I know Elliot said the postcards are going to be at 7:30, so I'm just kidding. I know. We'll be a little bit after, but we're almost there. I'm trying to move us. So we're going to continue with Aleinu, which is our prayer on page 283 at the top. So if you're able, please rise, and we will join together. Aleinu l'shabech l'adon hakol, v'atet gdula l'etzer breshit, shehu sam kalkinu yakadosh shemo, v'gor aleinu lamlit malchuto, v'anachnu korim, u'mishtachavim u'modim, lifnei melech malchei hamakim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, V'ne'emar, Adonai, L'melech HaKoretz, V'yom hahu, Yeh Adonai Echad, U'shemo, U'shemo, U'shemo. You may be seated. We think of our loved ones now whom death has taken either recently or at this time in years past. We've turned to page 294 for Mourner's Kaddish. And on this Shabbat, we are in the Shloshim period. mourning the loss of Gary Scott Kinner, the brother of Karen Rosenberg, as well as Roberta Sarah Carmel, the mother of Solomon Carmel and mother-in-law of Martine. And we also, on this Shabbat, observe the yard sites of loved ones Sarah Block, Valentina Darkovsky, Saul Eisen, Alan Isaac Goldstein, William Handelsman, Rose Handelsman, Dennis Joram, Selena Katz, Ella Ka, Elmer Lealoha, Stanley Levitt, Cobb Maria, Libby Mosler, Ciego Nathan, Harold Plotnick, Dorothy Daisy Raffish, Sam Schiffman, Virginia Marie Shirk, Jeanette Tolman, Albert S. White, Diane Wolfe, Ilya Alec Zeiger, and Mercedes Zwick. If there are other loved ones you're thinking of, or if I mispronounce a name, you would like to correct it, I invite you to do so now. If you're on the live stream, please share names of loved ones in the chat. If you're able, please rise. We'll join together as one community in the words of Mourner's Kaddish on page 294. Yikadal v'yikadash me'raba, v'yalma divrach pirutei v'yamlich malchutei, v'chaychon v'yomechon, v'chayei dekol Beit Yisrael, v'agala v'zman kari v'imru, amen. Yehi shmei rabba mevarach le'olam u'amei almaya. Yiparach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitraman v'yitnaseh, v'yitadar v'yitaleh v'yitalal, shemei dekudsha brechu. La'ela min kol birchata v'shirata, tushbechata v'nechamata, da'amiram be'alma v'imru, amen. Yehi shlama rabba min shemaya, v'chayim alinu ve'al kol Yisrael, v'imru, amen. Oseh shalom b'mamav, hu ya'aseh shalom, alinu ve'al kol Yisrael, v'imru, amen. You may be seated. And we will join together quickly in Har Hamotzi, our closing song, and then hope you will all stay and make some postcards with us. So this is part, as Ellie mentioned, it's part of the Every Voice, Every Vote campaign, which is part of the Religious Action Center's work. And this, you'll correct me if I get something wrong, this is to write postcards to people in Georgia who may have been affected by redistricting, and they have a primary coming up, and so making sure to encourage people to find out, to register if they're not registered, make sure they know what district they're in and where they can register, and to vote early. Did I miss anything important? You'll tell us. Okay. Join together in Hamotzi. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam hamotzi lechem min haaretz b'te'avon. And we will, let's finish with, we'll say shalom. Oh, say shalom. Yeah. There is some challah.